September is Velkanker-bewusmakingsmaand en die dermatoloog, Dr. Tarryn Jacobs, kuier vanoggend by ons om te gesels oor die werk wat hulle by die Triomfkliniek doen. So, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
What are the different types of skin cancers to know about at this stage?
So there are three basic types of skin cancers, and it all has to do with which cell turns cancerous. The most common one that we see is basal cell carcinoma or basal carcinoma. And that is something that's very slow growing. It can look on the skin like a spot that's just not healing up, that can bleed and get crusted. And then the next type is squamous cell carcinoma, which is like the intermediate type. And this can look like a rough, scaly spot on the skin or a growth. And commonly it occurs on the face as well as the back of the hands. The last type is melanoma, which is the cancer of the pigment cells, of melanoma. And that is really the most deadly. It is something that can spread, in other words. But if you catch it early, if you treat it while it's still in the skin, it's basically 100% curable. And the factors that are going to increase your risk for this is really sun exposure. So we see that your risk will increase where you have chronic sun exposure, but also intense UV exposure, like sunburns. You know, the more of those that you've had over your lifetime, the greater your risk.
It's always interesting for me why it's so dangerous, like the third one, because I mean, it's, the skin is your biggest organ that we know, but how does it spread and why is it so dangerous? I mean, and I've heard people say it was such a small, I talked about a thingy on my nose, and it's really small, but they say it can be that small, but it can be deadly if you don't do something about it, if it is cancer.
Right, so if it spreads, if it goes deeper, it can spread to your lymph nodes, it can spread to your blood and your other organs. So really early detection is key. As soon as you notice something is off, get it checked out.
And what should we look out for and how should we check our skin?
So I generally tell my patients to check your skin every month or every other month, but come in every year for a check, a head-to-toe check, meaning a total body skin check. And the things that you're going to look for are really the spots that stand out. So the ugly ducklings amongst all the other spots. And this may present as a changing mole or just a sore that's not healing up. The easiest way to recognize an early melanoma is by what we call the ABCDE acronym. So melanomas are asymmetrical, abnormal borders, abnormal color, bigger diameter, so bigger than a pencil tip, and evolving. So that's the key thing. It's change over time. Bigger, smaller, lighter, darker. Those are changes that could indicate that something's off and a good reason to see your dermatologist.
Is it more dangerous, like Elsa is more light skin, and then we've got people at work that's more, you know, soos hulle in Afrikaans sê blasvel, or just between a black skin and a white skin, in terms of, you know, more danger in the sun? Is there more skin types that's more prone to sun damage?
So the lighter, the fairer skin you have, the higher your risk. You know, if you are someone that is going to burn in the sun and not easily tan, then you have a greater risk. But I think the most important message to get across is that even the darkest skinned individual can get skin cancer. And interestingly, we see that with melanoma in a different distribution, so palms and soles, but with worse outcomes. So very big myth to dispel that all skin colors, people of different skin colors can get skin cancer.
And now we know it's 1st of September. We're going to talk about the campaign and why you're here and motivate people. But before I get there, and I'm also guilty, is the first thing I'm thinking of is getting, you know, I swim a lot, but I love a tan. But I mean, there's some dermatologists that will say never tan. Are you one of those? Or is there a balanced way to tan? I mean, I can't help tanning if you swim outside. But
so, you know, when you're exposed to UV radiation, to the sun's rays, a tan is basically making pigment to protect yourself from UV radiation. So a tan is a sign that your skin has been damaged. And over time, if you repeat that over and over, you're accumulating that damage in the DNA of your skin cells, and that can eventually lead to skin cancer. So actually, there's no such thing as a safe tan. It's never really justified. If you do want that healthy brown glow to your skin that some people want, then fake it. That's what I say. You know, use a self-tanner. Just be aware that that's not going to protect you either. You still need to use sunscreen.
Okay, ek het nou budget vir fake tan, ek besef dit. Maar love it tan.
Dit is die beter opsie, Jorney.
Absolutely.
Ons gaan nou later nog vra hier.
Ja, ons het nog heel wat vrae. Ek wil veral uitkom by hierdie skerp ligte ook. So, bly gerus ingeskakel daarvoor en ook jou 7 uur nuus.
Maar aangesluit nou by daai ou weekies, né? Jy gaan so goed nou kry vir die son met jou ligte vel, Elsa.
Ek dink ek sal maar moet, want September is Velkanker-bewusmakingsmaand en die dermatoloog Dr. Tarryn Jacobs kuier vanoggend by ons om te gesels oor die werk wat hulle by die Triomfkliniek doen. So thanks again for joining us. And I would like to start by asking you, there's a very interesting campaign that's going on, hey?
Yes, so, skin cancer is really a public health concern in South Africa. We have one of the highest rates of skin cancer in the world. And so to address this growing incidence, the Skin Cancer Foundation of South Africa was created with the aim of promoting awareness of skin cancer, but also implementing this National Skin Cancer Screening Day. And it is usually held in September every year, where South Africans can come and get their skin checked free of charge. So the participating dermatologists nationwide can be found on their website. Of course, you can go to any dermatologist that can do it at a fee, but there are participating dermatologists that can do it free of charge on this day, 1st of September.
1st of September. Where can people find info? We'll repeat that, where they
Yes.
can go, because it's countrywide, eh?
It's countrywide.
Yes.
The info is on the website, which is www.skincancerfoundation.co.za.
Okay.
So it's all there, some good information as well for patients.
What other steps can we take for skin cancer prevention?
Well, the good news is there's definitely skin cancers. Most of it can be prevented, right? There's ways that we can minimize our risk. And we're not asking and telling people to be hermits and to stay inside. We know South Africans love to be outdoors. It's our lifestyle. But we need to be sensible. For example, if you're at the beach, it's about seeking shade under an umbrella. It's about staying out the sun between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. when the UV rays are strongest. And, wearing protective clothing, wide brim hats, sunglasses, and of course applying sunscreen to exposed areas. We also really want to emphasize that tanning beds are no good. It's not safe. We're seeing a huge increase in the amount of skin cancers in young women because of tanning bed exposure. And no level of exposure in a tanning bed is safe, so best to be avoided.
Sure, I like that. So I must just go tan early, at 9. I'm struggling with this tanning thing. But getting back to we love it. So we all know sunscreen, but we're lazy. And I must be honest, it's a very expensive product. It's actually too expensive in South Africa. If I think I'm a family of 4 and I'm going to the beach and buying sunscreen, even just for me, I go like, yes, it's yeah. So maybe there's a gap in the market to go for a cheaper one. But it's really, I'm lazy. And I realize it's so necessary to motivate people, but the right sunscreen. So there's different kinds. Is it worth it to go for the SP5? Because the 50 is going to block the sun in such a way I'm not going to tan.
Yeah. So my general recommendation is look for an SPF of 30 minimum, ideally 50. Look for the words also broad spectrum, meaning it's going to cover UVA rays and UVB rays, which both cause skin cancer. And this is something that you want to reapply every 2 hours. So no wonder that it's expensive, right? But we need to apply it every 2 hours if you're outdoors, right? If you're going to be sweating, if you're going to be swimming. So sunscreen is just one of those things that need to become part of your daily habits, actually, part of your daily routine. If you forget to put it on in the morning, just even driving to work, that little bit of sun exposure through the car window, over time, it can lead to chronic sun damage and eventually skin cancer.
Daai is baie interessant, Jorney.
Ja.
Ek meen, baie van die Suid-Afrikaners spandeer soveel tyd op die pad. So dat die son wel so skadelik ook kan wees.
I realise, it must be, like you say, I think it's easier for women, to be honest, because you used to put up makeup, and I think just make it your routine. But I think men are lazy. You shower and you get up and you go to work, or you go farm, or you go outside, or, So we really need to motivate ourselves to do a little bit
Find one that works for you. You know, the formulation, even if it's a liquid that you can just quickly put on. Absolutely.
When it comes to children, how important, I mean, we saw the picture of the two little girls on their way to kindergarten with their hats. And I know it's law, I think in Australia and in New Zealand especially, all the school kids got special hats, né? So they like, that's normal on the uniform. They've got a hat, but it also covers the neck. You know, these hats with the long end. It's extended end at the back. And it's actually amazing because it's very dangerous there, even more.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so for parents, let's talk about babies. And I know, I mean, it's a normal, that you see a lot. No, I've never seen someone put his baby in the beach in the sun and say, hey, vang het tan. But how important is the babies and even toddlers that you know plays outside?
Right. No, the sunscreen's for everyone, every age, you know, every skin type, especially for children because their skins are very fragile and delicate. So for babies, best way is actually to wear UV protective clothing. So to cover the skin as much as possible, less than 6 months of age. And from 6 months of age, really any formulation for children or sensitive skin can work. And then also just getting back to your question about the highest, the SPF 5. Do I want to go for SPF 5? Is an SPF 50 better than 15 or 5? Well, let's look at what SPF is. So SPF is just a measure of UVB protection. So an SPF 50, if used correctly, in theory, should block out 98% of UVB rays. An SPF of 15 should block 93% of UVB rays. So one may say, well, that's not much of a difference. Why must I not pay more for that? But in the real world, people don't generally apply enough sunscreen. In fact, studies show that we only use about 30 to 50% of the recommended amount in order to protect us and our children. So higher SPFs, that extra coverage, is just more forgiving, and that's really the argument for them.
Sure. And then maybe just again, where can people go for free screenings? And now I'm not going to feel guilty that doctor's going to look at my nose in the ad break because it's for free today.
So if you pop onto that website, www.skincancerfoundation.co.za, there is a list of all the dermatologists nationwide that are screening for skin cancer today. Give them a call to make an appointment.
Just ietsie bla.
That awareness is amazing. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. Dit was Dr. Tarryn Jacobs, die dermatoloog wat by ons aangesluit het vir hierdie interessante gesprek.